I got into a taxi after work, exhausted and ready to go home. The driver kept glancing at me through the mirror, but I brushed it off as normal small talk coming. Then he said it. "You look just like her." I asked who he meant, and instead of answering, he pulled out a folded missing person poster from his glove compartment and handed it to me. The girl in the photo looked exactly like me. Same eyes, same smile, even the same tiny birthmark beneath the jawline. The date on the poster said she disappeared 10 years ago. Before I could breathe, the driver leaned closer and whispered, "They're still looking for..." And then he suddenly stopped talking, like he regretted saying anything at all. My name is Celine Ward, and that moment made me question everything I thought I knew about my life. Before we continue, hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from. You don't want to miss what happened next. My shift had run late, and all I wanted was to go home, eat leftovers, and call it a night. The rain outside made the city glow under streetlights, and I was too tired to wait for a rideshare, so I waved down a regular taxi. I slid into the back seat, grateful to sit down. The driver nodded politely, asked for my address, and we started moving. Everything felt ordinary, peaceful almost. Before I got in, I had called my mom to tell her I was heading home. She always likes updates. "Are you with someone? Where are you?" she asked, sounding a little more concerned than usual. I laughed gently and told her I was fine. "I'm in a taxi, Mom. I'll text you when I'm inside." She replied with her usual warmth, but there was a tightness in her voice I didn't think twice about. "Okay, honey, stay aware. Drive safely." I brushed it off as normal mom stuff. The ride was quiet at first. The windshield wipers swayed back and forth, and the radio played soft jazz. I leaned against the window and watched raindrops race down the glass. My mind wandered to work deadlines, weekend plans, normal everyday thoughts. Then the driver started glancing at me through the mirror. At first, I thought maybe he was trying to make polite conversation, so I offered a small smile. But he didn't smile back. He just kept looking, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. I shifted in my seat and pulled out my phone, pretending to check messages. The city lights flickered across the windows, and I reminded myself not to overthink. Taxi drivers talk to people all day. Maybe I reminded him of a cousin or something. The third time his eyes met mine in the mirror, he spoke. "You look just like her." I blinked, surprised. "Like who?" Instead of answering, he reached into the glove compartment, hand shaking slightly, like whatever he was about to show me mattered deeply. When he handed me the paper, I unfolded it slowly, expecting maybe a celebrity resemblance joke, but it wasn't a magazine. It was a missing person poster, a teenage girl staring back at me, smiling like she had her whole life ahead of her. Same features, same face, same tiny birthmark below the jaw. My breath caught in my throat. The date said she disappeared 10 years ago. I was 16 then. My chest tightened and my skin prickled. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingers. I whispered, "This looks like..." But I couldn't finish. He leaned toward me slightly. "Her name was Lila. She never came home. They've never stopped searching." His voice was low, almost shaking, like he was telling me something forbidden. In that second, the safe, quiet taxi suddenly felt small, too small, like the walls were closing in with questions I never thought I'd have to ask. I had always thought I knew who I was, but suddenly, doubt crept into every memory I had before age 7, memories that never felt clear. I didn't understand what was happening yet, but something inside me knew this moment wasn't random, it wasn't coincidence, and it wasn't harmless. Stay with me. The truth that came after this changed everything. And before we move forward, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. This story isn't just strange, it's real, and it shook my entire life. The rain tapped harder against the car roof as the city lights blurred outside the window. The poster sat open in my lap, and even though my hands were shaking, I couldn't look away from it. That girl, her face, her eyes, the tiny birthmark under her jaw, it was like staring at a photograph of myself from 10 years ago. I felt pinned in place by confusion and fear, like someone had taken the ground out from under me. "I don't understand," I whispered, trying to swallow the tightness in my throat. "This can't be real." I didn't go missing. The driver didn't turn around fully, but his voice was soft, almost gentle. Her name was Lila Ross. She disappeared when she was 16. 16. I was 16 10 years ago. Same timeline, same features. Something inside my chest started to tremble. I forced myself to breathe. My voice sounded shaky in my own ears. You must be mistaken. I'm not her. My name is Celine. He nodded slightly, but kept his eyes on the road. Maybe you're right, but I drove her once. I never forget a face. When you got in, I knew immediately. His words slipped into my bones like cold water. I closed the poster quickly, as if hiding it would make the truth less threatening. I told myself this was just a weird coincidence, that there were people out there who looked alike. That was normal, right? But the uneasiness didn't leave. It sunk deeper. I texted my brother again. Hey, call me now. Emergency. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No call yet. The driver cleared his throat. Do you remember much from before high school? I stiffened. Why would you ask that? His fingers flexed around the steering wheel. Sometimes trauma makes the mind hide things. Protect you from remembering. My heart jumped. Why would I have trauma? He didn't answer. He just stared forward, jaw clenched, like he was deciding whether he should keep talking. The car moved steadily down the road, but everything felt suddenly fragile, like one wrong word would break the moment open. I tried to force logic into my voice. I know who I am. I have a family, a life, memories. I said the words, but as soon as they left my lips, cracks appeared in them. Because the truth was, I didn't have early memories. I remembered 2nd grade clearly, the house we lived in, the pink bicycle I begged for, my first best friend in elementary school. Those memories felt real. But before that, nothing but blurry images, like someone had erased the beginning of my childhood and left only faint outlines. I never questioned it before. Most kids don't remember their earliest years clearly. At least that's what I always believed. The driver finally spoke again, voice low and uneasy. People don't just vanish. Someone took her. Someone powerful. The case went silent, but rumors never did. Cold pressure spread through my chest. Why are you telling me this? He paused long enough for fear to thicken in my stomach, because I always wondered if she ever escaped, if she managed to live. When I saw you, his voice faltered for the first time. I thought maybe she made it. The air inside the taxi felt tight, like it had weight. I couldn't decide if he was trying to protect me or destroy my peace. The car slowed as he approached a red light. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. My instincts screamed at me to get out, run, breathe somewhere else. But another part of me needed answers, needed truth. I opened my phone again and hit call on my brother's contact. It rang twice and went to voicemail. Anxiety crawled up my spine. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Sweetheart, everything okay? Please tell me where you are. Her tone wasn't casual. It was worried, urgent even. I texted quickly. In a taxi. Something weird happened. My phone rang almost instantly. Mom. I answered quietly so the driver wouldn't hear much. Hey, Mom, this driver showed me a poster and… Before I finished, her voice cut through the speaker, sharp and terrified. Celine, get out of that car. Right now. My stomach dropped. She had never used that tone with me in my life. The light turned green. The taxi started moving again. My pulse raced. Mom, what's going on? Her voice cracked. Please, listen to me. Get out now. I froze, uncertainty turning into dread. The driver looked at me through the mirror again, not with threat, but with a strange sadness, like he already knew what she was going to say. The world outside kept passing by, but inside that taxi, time felt trapped. I wasn't just scared anymore. I was starting to realize something terrifying. This wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a mix-up. Something about my life was not what I believed it was, and I had no idea who I could trust, or what truth was waiting on the other side of this moment. The sound of my mother's voice echoing in my ear didn't feel real. It wasn't the tone she used when she worried about me working too late or forgetting a jacket. It was fear, raw, sharp fear. And it was directed at me sitting in this taxi with a stranger who suddenly didn't feel like a stranger anymore. He felt like a key to a past I didn't know I had. My fingers tightened around my phone. Mom, what do you mean get out? Why? On the other end, she inhaled shakily. Celine, you need to trust me. Where are you? What street? The taxi turned a corner just then, and I felt the world tilt. I darted my eyes to the window, catching sight of a familiar intersection only a few blocks from home. My voice wavered. We're on Westbrook Avenue. I'm fine. Just tell me what's happening. She didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, Is the driver listening? The question made my skin tighten. I glanced up. His eyes flicked from the mirror back to the road, jaw tense, not trying to hide that he heard her voice through the phone. The air inside the car grew heavier. No, I lied. He's just driving. Mom exhaled. Your brother is coming. Stay where there are people. The urgency in her voice wasn't something I could ignore. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a warning. I tried to steady my breathing. Mom, explain. Who is this girl? Why do I look like her? Silence pressed against my ear. Then a quiet, painful confession. Celine, that isn't the name you were born with. The words hit like a physical blow. My grip on the phone loosened and I nearly dropped it. I stared blindly out the window as the city lights smeared past, my throat tightening like a rope had wrapped around it. What? My voice cracked. What do you mean? Before she could respond, the call beeped. Another incoming call. Noah, my brother, my protector, the one who always brushed off my questions about childhood memories. I switched over. Noah? His voice was tight, rushed. Where are you exactly? I'm close. I pressed my palm to the glass, peering out like I could anchor myself to something real. Westbrook, near the coffee shop by the park. Good. Stay on the line. His voice lowered, firm. Do not let him take you anywhere else. If he changes direction, get out, yell, cause a scene. Do not stay quiet. Fear flared in my chest. Noah, who am I? Who was I? He didn't answer right away. I could hear his car engine in the background, accelerating. You're safe with us. That's all that matters. That wasn't an answer. Not even close. I need the truth, I said quietly, my voice trembling. You'll get it, but not while you're in that car. As he spoke, the taxi slowed at a red light. I looked outside. People crossed the street, umbrellas glowing under street lamps. Safety was steps away. My heart hammered in my chest. The driver finally broke his silence. You should listen to them, he said softly. The words startled me. I turned toward him. Why are you doing this? Who do you think I am? His shoulders sagged slightly, as if carrying a burden he never wanted. I'm not here to hurt you. I just wanted to know if she ever got free. His voice held no threat, only a haunting sadness. Something in his face, the lines around his eyes, told me he wasn't lying. He looked like a man who had been living with guilt or fear for too long. Noah's voice cut through the silence on the phone. Light's about to change. The moment it does, open the door and walk into the coffee shop. Don't run. Walk. I'll be there as fast as I can. The light turned green. I swallowed hard, fingers trembling on the door handle. Everything inside me screamed to move, but another part, terrified and curious, whispered, what if leaving means never knowing the truth? The driver spoke again, this time barely above a whisper. They never gave up looking for you. If you really are her, you weren't forgotten. My pulse pounded in my ears. I pushed the door open. The driver didn't stop me. He didn't shout. He just watched with tired, knowing eyes, like he had seen this moment before. I stepped out into the rain-lit street, heart racing, palms sweating, phone held tight like a lifeline. The taxi pulled away slowly, disappearing into the blur of traffic. I stood there soaked, shaking, adrenaline crashing through me. Every part of me felt split between two identities, the girl I knew and the girl in the poster who vanished a decade ago. And as I walked toward the coffee shop entrance, I realized something terrifying and strangely empowering. I wasn't just looking for answers. I was stepping back into a life I didn't remember. The truth was coming, and I wasn't sure whether it would save me or break me. Rain dripped from my hair and jacket as I pushed open the coffee shop door. Warmth and the smell of roasted beans washed over me, but it didn't calm me. My entire world felt like it was spinning, tilting, reshaping itself under my feet. I found a seat in the corner by the window, phone still pressed to my ear, my pulse thumping in my neck. Noah was still on the line. I'm 2 minutes away. Do not move from that spot. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Hurry. My voice sounded small, unfamiliar. I scanned the room. Students on laptops, a couple whispering over a shared pastry, a man reading a newspaper. Nobody paid attention to me, and for a moment, I envied their ordinary lives. The poster image flashed in my mind again. The girl, Lila, who could have been my reflection at 16. I placed a shaking hand against my neck, feeling the birthmark. It was always just a part of me. Never a clue. Never a link to a life I didn't know. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We love you, no matter what. And another one. Seconds later, he wasn't supposed to find you. My breath caught. The words hit like a sudden blow. He wasn't supposed to find you. What did that mean? The taxi driver? The man who saw me 10 years ago? Or someone worse? Before I could spiral further, the shop door opened hard, and Noah rushed in, soaked with rain. He scanned the room until he found me. His shoulders relaxed only a little when he saw I was safe. He hurried over and crouched next to me. You all right? He asked, reaching for my hand. I don't know, I whispered. Please tell me the truth. He sat across from me, running a hand through his wet hair. It took him a few seconds before he could speak. You were born Lila, he said quietly. Your real name was Lila Ross. I stared at him, my chest tightening like I couldn't breathe enough air. Hearing the name come from his mouth made everything feel real, sharp, irreversible. You disappeared, he continued, but not because you ran away. He paused, eyes searching mine, checking if I could handle more. My voice came out strained. So what happened? Noah's jaw clenched, and he lowered his voice. Your biological family. They weren't safe. They weren't good people. Confusion rushed through me. Were they criminals? Abusive? He exhaled. Your father was dangerous, powerful, controlling, and there were rumors he was involved in things that hurt people. When you were 16, you tried to leave. Mom met you in the hospital after... His voice wavered before he swallowed hard. After someone hurt you, trying to bring you back home. My stomach twisted. The image formed before I could stop it. A frightened girl, trying to escape something terrible and being dragged back. I breathed unevenly. So she rescued me? Just like that? No, he said. You didn't trust anyone. You were terrified. But Mom helped you recover. She got you therapy. The doctors suggested memory protection, blocking pieces of trauma until you were ready. He looked down. And you chose not to remember anything. You begged not to. My throat tightened. I asked to forget? He nodded. You wanted a new life, a real one, with safety and love. A tear slipped down my cheek before I even realized I was crying. And the driver? He was a safe person, Noah said. He drove you sometimes when you were hiding. I think he cared. But he didn't know you eventually healed and chose a new identity. When he saw you today, he probably thought someone found you, or that you were still running. Pieces clicked slowly into place. The sadness in the driver's eyes, the hesitation, the fear. I pressed my forehead to my hands. Everything felt too big, too heavy. So Mom just kept me? Changed my name? She saved you, he whispered. She didn't steal you. She protected. You! The police knew enough to look the other way. Almost everyone involved believed your real family shouldn't get you back. My voice shook. And my memories? Will they come back? He reached across and squeezed my hand. Maybe, maybe not. But you don't have to remember pain to know who you are now. For a long moment, we just sat there. The rain outside softened. People kept living their quiet lives while my past unfolded like an abandoned photo album suddenly opened after years in a locked attic. I thought about the girl on that poster, alone, scared, fighting for a life she deserved. And I realized she wasn't a stranger to me. She was the beginning of me, the part that survived. I lifted my head and met Noah's eyes. Do they know who I am? No, he said firmly. And they never will. That life is gone. You are Celine now. You earned that. I nodded slowly, breathing deeper. For the first time since the taxi ride began, I felt something stronger than fear, ownership. A past I didn't choose created a future I did. And I wasn't that missing girl anymore. I was the woman she fought to become. When we finally stepped outside, the rain had slowed to a quiet mist, and for the first time since getting into that taxi, the world didn't feel like it was spinning. The night air felt cool against my face. I stood still on the sidewalk for a moment, watching cars pass, listening to the soft hum of the city. A few hours ago, I thought I knew everything about who I was. Now, I understood that my life was built on a second chance I never knew I'd been given. Noah stood beside me, keeping a close eye on me like he expected I might fall apart at any second. I didn't break down, though. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't panicking. I felt grounded in a strange, almost steady way. "It's a lot," he said quietly, his voice gentle. "It is," I replied, and the words came out calm. But I think I needed to know. He gave me a long look, like he was trying to read whether I meant it. "We always wanted to tell you. We just didn't want to reopen wounds when you had finally found peace." I nodded. "You protected me. I get that." We walked to his car, and before I got in, I looked down the street where the taxi had disappeared hours earlier. I felt no anger toward the driver, no hatred. If anything, I felt a strange sense of gratitude. If he hadn't shown me that poster, I might have lived my entire life with a missing piece inside me, never knowing where I came from, never understanding the strength that lived inside me long before I ever became Celine Ward. When we reached home, Mom was waiting at the door. She didn't say anything at first. She just stared at me with tear-filled eyes like she was afraid to breathe. I walked into her arms without hesitation. She held me with the same tight, desperate tenderness you see in someone who thought they lost something forever, and finally got it back. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I never wanted you to feel lost again." I swallowed hard. "You didn't lose me. You saved me." She pulled back to look at me, brushing my hair behind my ear like she had done since I was little, or since I became her daughter. "I loved you from the second I saw you," she said, voice thick with emotion. "Not because I had to, but because I couldn't let you go. You came to us broken and scared, and all I cared about was giving you a life where you could feel safe and loved again." For the first time that night, tears rolled down my cheeks, not from fear, but from understanding. "You gave me a life, a real one." Noah joined us, resting a hand on my shoulder. "Everything we did was to protect you, not to hide you, to protect the life you chose." Hearing those words, "the life you chose," settled something inside me. I couldn't remember Lila's pain, but I suddenly understood her strength. She didn't vanish. She didn't disappear without a trace. She fought her way into a better life, into a safe home, into this family. And memory or not, she didn't lose herself. She became me. We sat together that night, drinking tea in the living room I'd called home for years. Mom told me small things she remembered about the early days. How I used to flinch at loud noises. How I slept with the light on. How she and Noah would stay up to watch over me just in case nightmares woke me. I listened quietly, absorbing every detail, not as someone trying to reclaim a lost life, but as someone accepting the gift of the one she earned. My past didn't define me. My survival did. Later, lying in my own bed, I stared at the ceiling and breathed slowly, letting the truth settle without rushing it. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel incomplete. I felt whole in a new way. Like a puzzle piece I didn't know was missing finally clicked into place. Yes, a stranger once looked at me and thought I was someone who vanished. But I didn't vanish. I lived. I survived. I became someone worth finding, worth protecting, worth loving. And if there was one thing I learned tonight, it was this. Sometimes the life we think we lost leads us to the one we were always meant to have. To anyone listening to this, remember, your identity isn't just where you came from, but where you choose to go next. You are allowed to outgrow your past. You are allowed to rewrite your story. And if you made it this far, make sure you subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means the world, and I promise more stories that remind you how powerful survival and truth can be.